Hey there! In this video, I'll guide you through the step-by-step configuration of Hyprland on NixOS with the power of Home Manager and a pinch of Vim magic. Configuring Hyprland declaratively by translating its config into Nix language allows you to integrate it deeply with your system, easily modularize it, and have some useful Nix features. So, let's get started. I'm going to configure Hyprland through the Home Manager. For a comprehensive guide on setting it up, you can watch my NixOS video. Although it is still recommended to enable Hyprland in your main NixOS configuration to set up certain system-level changes, like adding a desktop session entry. You can also enable with UWSM option if you'd like to launch Hyprland through that session manager. No further configuration is required, you don't even need to add UWSM in the list of packages. This option sets up everything automatically, and you just need to run UWSM start select in your TTY to start it. Anyway, let's come back to the Home Manager. The option we're looking for to configure Hyprland is wayland.windowmanager.hyprland. First of all, we'll have to, of course, enable it. And in the settings option, define our config. Inside, we're going to translate the Hyprland configuration into Nix language. We can use this code snippet from Home Manager documentation as a reference. As you can see, we have to add equal signs for sections, add semicolons, put some values inside of the string. Options with dots or dollar signs also have to be a string, and for configuring bindings or window rules, we'll have to put them inside of an array, which are called lists in Nix language. From the first glance, translating all that into Nix language looks like a lot of work, but it's actually just 5 macros. I also want to know that you may have different Hyprland config, but all patterns of Hyprland language are the same for all configs. So all the macros that we'll record will definitely work on your config too. The only thing worth noting is that my macros rely on the fact that there are white spaces before and after equal signs in the config. So make sure that it is formatted this way. If it is not and there are no white spaces before and after equal signs, this can be easily fixed with the following find and replace command: %s /= space =space. Now you're good to go. And if you're not familiar with Vim macros, don't worry, I'll be explaining every step. You can also look at the top right corner to see the keystrokes I use. I'll copy my Hyprland configuration with GG by uppercase G and paste it here. It's gonna look all messy. We have 175 errors, so I'll stop the LSP stop. And finally, now it's time to get our hands dirty. Macros are basically sequences of keystrokes that you can record and replay. To record a macro, you need to press Q, followed by a register. In simple words, register is one letter name for a macro. For example, QA will record a macro in register A. As an example, let's make it remove the equal sign from the line. Go to the first non-blank character of the line with underscore, F =, to find an equal sign, X to delete, and J to go to the next line. Press Q to stop recording, and to replay the macro, just press @A. So now you know how macros work, and we can start translating our Hyprland config. The first step is to put these variables and their values inside of double quotes, because Nix syntax requires them to be a string, according to the reference, and add semicolons at the end. We're gonna record the macro Q, which stands for quotes. First of all, let's go to the beginning of the line and enter insert mode. This can be done by the uppercase I. Insert quote, go to normal mode, go to the equal sign but one character shy, which can be achieved with T, =, enter insert mode again and put another quote. Then leave insert mode and go 1, 2, 3, 4 characters right to type another quote. And the final quote at the end of the line with uppercase A and semicolon. The last very important step is to move down one line, because we want this macro to be applied across multiple lines. Now to stop the macro, simply press Q. Let's replay it with @Q, and as you can see, it works perfectly. By the way, with @, you can replay the last used macro. And now we need to translate the monitor setup. In this case, we don't need the monitor to be inside of the quotes, so we'll need a different macro, which I will call W. So go to the beginning of the line with underscore, find equal sign with F =, go 2 characters right, put a quote, then go to the end of the line and add another quote with a semicolon. Same thing, go down 1 line to make it scalable. This macro is much easier than the previous one. Right now we don't need to replay it, but soon we will encounter lines like that one. After I have environment variables in my config, but we're gonna skip this for now because it requires quite a complicated macro. Instead, let's focus on configuring sections like decorations. So here we have a curly brace block, which is kinda similar to what Nix language should look like, but it misses an equal sign before curly braces and semicolons for options. Let's record the macro E, which stands for equal sign, because it just adds this to the section. Go to the beginning of the line with underscore, find an opening curly brace with F opening curly brace, insert mode, equal sign, and it's done. I'll go 1 line down here too, not because we'll need to scale the macro, but just for convenience. Let's replay the macro for blur at E and jump to fixing the options. It is actually quite easy because the only thing we need to do is to add semicolons. I'll name the macro S, which stands for semicolon. Use uppercase A to go to the end of the line, add semicolon, and go to normal mode. J to move down because we will use this macro across multiple lines. Now, as you can see, we have 4 more lines that need a semicolon, including this lonely curly brace at the end. We can fix all of them with the magic of counters by applying the macro 4 times with 4 at S. Perfect. At this point, we have all the macros to fix all sections in our config. We just need to not mess them up. Okay, at E for shadow, at W for color. We need to surround it with quotes because Nix doesn't have a color data type yet. And now semicolons for 8 lines with 8 at S. Moving forward, dwindle at E and 3 at S. General at E, 2 at S. And here we need to surround both the option and the value in quotes because options have a dot. So we'll do 2 at Q. Remember, we save the macros to specific registers for easier understanding of what they do. In this case, Q stands for quotes. Now 2 at S again, then we surround the value with quotes with at W, and 2 at S again. So you get the idea. I'll speed up my editing of sections and we will come back for editing more complicated options. Now I'll jump back to my environment variables, and according to the reference, they should look like an array. So we need to come up with an idea of how to convert all the sequence into a Nix list. First of all, let's make sure that there are white spaces before and after the env sequence, because this macro will rely on Vim's paragraph object. Paragraphs in Vim are blocks of text divided by the empty lines. So let's put the cursor somewhere inside of that sequence and record the macro L, which stands for list. Jump to the beginning of the paragraph with opening curly brace, down 1 line, and go to the beginning of the line with underscore. Right now it doesn't do anything, but it is a crucial step if the code is indented, which we will encounter later. Let's yank the option name with Y plus uppercase W. Uppercase because it operates with words separated with white spaces only. You can look down and see that this code configures exec -once. And if we use here lowercase w, it will yank only the word exec instead of exec-once, which will result in an error. Let's create a new line above with uppercase O and paste the word here. Now enter insert mode and make this a list. The next thing is to remove env keyword inside of the list. So we go down, beginning of the line, and visual block mode with Ctrl V. Go to the end of the paragraph with closing curly brace and up 1 line. Find equal sign and select 1 more character to the right. Now we can delete all that with D. And here comes the most interesting part, because we need to somehow surround all elements of the list with double quotes. Go to visual line mode with uppercase V, end of the paragraph, 1 line up, and enter command line mode with :S. Here we use amazing regex pattern to match 0 to infinite blank characters and 0 to infinite normal characters. Also, we need to surround it with parentheses, but Vim thinks that we're looking for the literal parentheses characters, so we need to escape them with \, and then replace all that with quote \1 quote. Okay, let me break this down. We need to match blank characters because lines could be indented, and this could lead to trailing white spaces inside of the quotes, which is what we definitely don't want. Then we enclose 0 to infinite characters in parentheses to have a match group, and we can refer to this match group in the replace section with \1. Now let's press Enter, lowercase o to create a new line, and finish all that with closing square bracket and a semicolon. Don't worry about ugly indenting because it can be fixed with a simple keystroke. For now we will just leave it as is. Okay, so let's stop recording the macro with Q and replay it with exec once, at L. Tell me that's not amazing. Now let's fix the animation section, at E, at W. This yes please thing is actually default value that Hyprland provides for that option. You can replace it with true if you're a boring person, but I'll leave it there. Activate our amazing macro for Bezier curves, and for animation it's gonna fail because we need to create new empty line here. Let's try this out, and it works perfectly. Now let's jump to the key bindings, and here instead of making new empty lines, I need to remove some of them, because all bindings created with the same keyword have to be inside of one paragraph. So I've got this giant block of code, and let's see if it works or not. At L. Oh yeah, tell me that's not amazing. Now we do the same thing with this block, and this block. With window rules basically the same thing. If they are all under the same keyword like in my config, just use at L and it's done. And finally for workspaces, I need to add a new empty line and do the final at L. Now we're almost done. The final thing we need to do is to fix indentation, which can be done with GG to go to the top of the file, =sign to start indentation, and uppercase G to apply it from the top to the bottom of the file. Perfect. And if you were impressed with the power of NeoVim and want to take learning it seriously, I highly recommend you to check out my practical NeoVim course, which is, as the name suggests, focuses on practice. Here you'll find tons of exercises, tables with useful keys, visual explanations, and much more. If you're ready to take your coding skills to the next level, check out my course in the description. I think it's time for me to start LSP again, LSP start. And I've got one error. Yeah, I forgot to add a semicolon here at S. And now we need to run the command to rebuild our home configuration, home manager switch, with B backup argument. Otherwise, it's gonna return an error that the existing Hyprland config is in a way of Nix generated Hyprland config. As you can see, it reported no errors, and our Hyprland config is now governed by home manager. And our old Hyprland config was backed up as hyprland.conf.backup. Now let's make use of some of the Nix features in our config. For example, I have the famous game mode shell script from the Hyprland wiki that disables all the fancy stuff in Hyprland. And instead of creating it imperatively, we can put it right inside of our Nix config. Here is how to do it. Go to the top with GG, add packages as inputs, and write basic let-in syntax for creating variables. Inside we'll create a new variable, which will contain a shell script game mode. Create it with the function write shell script bin. Inside of multi-line string, we need to paste the contents of the script, which are taken from Hyprland wiki. And finally, in bind list, we add this variable to the binding that runs game mode script. Remember, inside of the variable is just path to the Nix store object. So for the script to run, we need to provide additional path, which is /bin/game mode. Now let's run home manager switch again, and let's see if it works. So I press mod key plus G, and as you can see, it removed blur from that show me the key thing. Then you can create an additional script for auto start, move bindings to a different Nix module, maybe create some custom options. Well, basically your possibilities for configuring Hyprland are limited only to your imagination. As you can see, configuring Hyprland on NixOS is actually quite easy, and it can make your config much more flexible and powerful. If you'd like to see more tutorials on NixOS, like Waybar or Tmax configuration guide, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and have a great rest of your day.